Hi, this is Sitsi Brandy, co-founder and CEO of GitLab, and we're going to talk about how you combine kind of private customer needs with a public issue tracker. Uh, with GitLab, we have a public roadmap, and that includes like all the feature requests, our issues in our and are publicly accessible, even the feature requests for the proprietary part of the product. Now, if customers indicate a need, we always document that in our kind of customer success system or customer management system. So for us, that's Salesforce. And what then happens is that the person who interacted with the customer tries to find the relevant issue and leaves a comment sometimes mentioning the product manager, or sometimes you assume the product manager will be in there anyway. And you say, hey, at product manager, a customer with 1,000 seats would be really nice for them to have this feature in Q3 of next year, and then a Salesforce link. And then if the issue doesn't exist yet, if the feature request doesn't exist yet, they first create the feature request. Anybody can create a feature request for GitLab, so can the customer success team. And then the product manager, they can either just listen to it, or they can respond, or they can even like promise the feature and say, hey, yes, we definitely are going to make this. And if they do so, it's labeled with customer promise. And we label them so that if we shuffle up the roadmap, like if things get prioritized, we don't forget that we promised something, which is something we always want to ship on time. And the benefit of this is you have all the information about a feature request together. So you have like all the people who cared about it, you have all the customers that you talk to, you can kind of, so when you're comparing which feature are we going to ship, you have all the information in the same place. What also the customer success people frequently do is kind of after they followed up with the customer, they link to that specific comment they left and say, hey, I indicated your interest on this and that. And now sometimes the customer feels comfortable with interacting directly. So they kind of interact with the PM in the issue. They interact sometimes. We have engineers that are like, who is this person telling me how to build this feature? And it turns out to be a customer who really cares about it. So you open up that communication without exposing the customer. So what you can do is say like, this company name wants this or something like that. You got to keep it confidential. And if the customer wants to interact, that's their choice, but you keep it confidential. What we've tried and failed is like creating issues for each customer request. It tends to be a mess, and it tends to be kind of disjointed from the actual feature. So for a feature, like a lot of things come together. Like you have product managers, you have all the people who are interested in this, you have potential contributors, and sometimes you label it accepting merge requests, like please make this. It's better to have like a pretty noisy issue with a lot of comments to keep everyone on the same page. And it's important like that you can see the backstory. Like if there's questions, for example, the product manager before building it, they want to interview the people who care about it. It's super important. They click the Salesforce link and can see who asked for it at the customer, and they can reach out to interview them. I'm here in the call with Mike, CEO of FleetDM. Mike, any questions or suggestions?
I'm just taking this and I'm mapping it to like the world that we've been living in at Fleet. And I'm thinking, we are unfortunately sometimes not in GitLab as much as I wish we were, being the legacy of our project and its users. And when I think of, we use GitHub projects today to track some of these things. And I'm thinking we have some improvements we can make as far as, instead of tracking individual cards in the little Kanban board for customer action items and requests, like doing a bit more research after that call to find the existing requests, avoid extra duplication, and I think the big change for us that we can learn from this is getting Noah involved sooner from our product team. I don't want to use the word groom, but to kind of clean up those issues and map them to the promises. I guess a question coming to mind is like, so customer success, what does the follow-up process look like? Let's say you have a great customer meeting. there's some wins. Maybe you take some notes on the wins. You take some notes on the customer's goals and priorities. What does that process look like as far as a customer success leader following up about what the customer asked for?
Yeah, I think that's up to the customer success leader. The follow-up action should be in Salesforce. Typically, they take the form of kind of an enterprise business review where every quarter you recap like these are your company goals as we understood them. This is how we were going to contribute to them. This is what we delivered on that, and this is the impact on your business, and get the customer to kind of respond to that. And then make plans for the next quarter. So I think that happens in a customer-centric system. You mentioned using GitHub. GitHub issues work as well as GitLab issues for this. I think GitLab issues has a lot of functionality that isn't in GitHub, like portfolio planning and things like that. But for the issue part, I think it's fine. I think the failure mode is having a separate system for customer feedback where you have user voice or something else. And then you have all these customer needs, and then you have the product people making their plans, and it doesn't overlap. I think that's the thing not to do. So fine to do it in GitHub if that's because Fleet's there now as an open source project.
Makes sense. Yeah, we've noticed there's a gap in epics that we have had to find some workarounds for, and then I would say there's this thing this kind of board that evolves where the columns are like each category of task or each initiative, and then the little cards are like the actual requests.
Yeah.
So we've had to kind of switch some of that.
Great GitLab functionality that you'd get when you would switch.
Yeah, we saw there's a way to like pivot out the columns and switch it out for priority and stuff, which is